Yo, what's going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Saturday Night Locals. Here we are in episode 89. We're coming up very fast on episode 100, and we are continuing on in this tournament here, this Locals Mega Tournament. We're actually in top 8 now, and yeah, we ended up going 3-1 in Swiss, and we're here in top 8. We won Dire. We're playing against Rescue Ace, our second Rescue Ace matchup of the day, which wasn't surprising, even though this tournament was new format, and obviously Rescue Ace did get Airlifter hit to 1. The deck is still insane, so it wasn't surprising to see that deck still being very well represented. Now, for this particular opening here, I go ahead and spec Fenrir, and have to go ahead and search out for the Unicorn, because I already have Scareclaw in hand, and it's a little awkward opening like this, but the only benefit is that we get into Dracosack without burning the normal summon. We just don't get access to burst, which does kind of suck a little bit. And I did also open up open up the double yo-yo, which is a little less than ideal. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it does make things a little bit awkward. And also, again, since I don't have birth, like, this is going to be slightly different than how the normal, like, Unicorn plus Fenrir combo plays out that I showed in the combo video that I posted recently. If you haven't seen that, by the way, check that out. I'll try to link it in the description or up in the top right if I remember. But yeah, so normally in that combo, in the standard combo where you don't start like I did, you start with like spec Unicorn, grab Birth, normal Fenrir, grab Scareclaw. Like, normally going for Duke and Piper is perfectly fine, and ends on 5 disrupts usually either way. But here, we're missing out on that free level 7 body that we would have from Scareclaw Kashtira, since we had to use it early on, and of course we are again lacking birth. So I'm trying to decide what the most optimal route is to go. I think revealing Duke and Piper here still would have been fine on its own. But if you get Piper, I feel like it's a little too weak in that scenario, because you don't really have a really solid synchro play. So instead, I decided to go for this route here, which is Terror Top in Fuki Madoshi Piper, which is a little, a little risky on my part. Like, very, very risky on my part. Because if I would have gotten the Terror Top to hand, I guess it's not the end of the world if the Terror Top comes to the hand. Yeah, I think that's what I ended up realizing. Like, if the Terror Top comes to hand, I still have the normal summon Terror Top play. And if it doesn't, I still have the yo-yo to get the extra body. So I think what I did was fair enough there. Because, like, again, having the double yo-yo guarantees a resolving of Terror Top. And then the Piper, just whether it goes to hand or grave too, gets it in circulation for Duke to be able to bring out. And then that makes Tekatomborg, that frees up my Tekatomborg, essentially, to be able to summon Duke, since I already have, again, Piper in circulation. So, yeah, now looking back, I think this makes a lot more sense. I'm going to go into the Stardust Charge Warrior, and Charge Warrior is just going to go for the simple draw 1 here. And I like, in cases where I can, I like resolving Charge Warrior before Piper, because you can avoid, getting doubles in this case. So, because you draw 1 first, and then obviously when you activate for Piper, you're not going to take a duplicate, right? Whereas something else could happen the other way around, where, like, if you excavate for a droll, right, and then draw into another random droll afterwards, right, you can see how that's a little less optimal. And I have, I guess, sort of follow-up in hand already with the Fenrir. It's not great follow-up by any means, but it's technically a rebuttal play if my entire board gets cleared. But I'm expecting my board not to get cleared entirely off of just, having 3 hand traps plus Baron. So, yeah, I think taking the droll there is completely fine. And here, I also, for a moment, was like, wait, this feels a little awkward ending on just Terror Top, Yo-Yo, and Rubber Band. And then I was like, oh, wait, I never actually ended up using my additional normal summon because I didn't need to, right? The combo started with Spec Fenrir, grab Scareclaw. Scareclaw banished the Unicorn, and then never needed to use Rubber Band Shooter's additional normal summon effect. So I decided to link climb into the Doom Eagle, just because at this point in the tournament, I knew what my opponent was on. It's top 8. Pretty much everybody knows that everybody's playing at this point. It's been long enough in the tournament. So I make a heads-up play to go for the Doom Eagle, because I know Doom Eagle has been clutch for me in the past against Rescue Ace, clearing things out of the graveyard and preventing them from being able to summon things like Preventer or things like the Turbulence. In hindsight, was that the play to make? Maybe not. Maybe SP Little Knight was probably just 9 times out of 10 the better option. And yeah, I mean, sitting here thinking about that, part of me is like, yeah, going for Little Knight was probably better. But, you know, again, like, Doom Eagle has been kind of a decent card in the past. And my opponent is going to go ahead and use the Impulse's secret effect that I had no idea existed, which is basically to target Baron and make it so neither of us can use monsters with that effect for the rest of the turn. Which kind of threw me for a loop because I, like, literally never knew the card did that. I always thought it was just, like, a hand trap effect. Well, I mean, it can go from field too, but you know, in response to a monster effect, like just send itself off from hand or field and summon a rescue ace from the deck. I did not know that it had that extra line of text on it. This was like complete news to me at this point in the tournament. And I'm debating on whether obviously I want to use Baron's negate or not. I just don't think it's worth it at this point because then Defender is going to go through and I just lose out big time to that. And Doom Eagle also is just chilling at 4,800 right now because of its, you know, inherent effect. If your opponent doesn't have any monsters in their graveyard, it gains 2,400 attack. And, you know, if he tries to, like, link off into something, you know, it puts a rescue ace monster in the graveyard, and then, you know, Doom Eagle can just shuffle it back before I give him the opportunity to be able to even summon, you know, something like Preventer. You know, just keeping him off potential plays. But he does go into the early battle phase here, attacking over the double yo-yo, and he does use the effect of Fenrir to target the Baron. And I do chain Ghost Ogre here on the Fenrir because I just honestly didn't think I'd be getting a chance to use it anywhere else in this particular matchup. I think maybe the only other good Ghost Ogre against the deck would have probably have been HQ, but I don't know if it was really worth actually like using it for that. Nice little reflection of my face there in the phone screen. And yeah, so I mean, it gets the Fenrir off the field, maybe a little too late. And here I just go Doom Eagle to shuffle back the Fenrir into his deck, just because I think he was passing turn here, and if Doom Eagle can stay at 4,800, that's fine by me. So we draw into a Pot of Prosperity here, which is pretty good. Luckily, I still had a way back into Engine if I absolutely needed it, because I could just normal Droll Knockbird and then link into the Rubber Band Shooter. Not ideal, but it's something I could have done. So I decide to fire off Prosperity here, and I believe I just go straight for 6, although you can see the extra deck is getting a little thin because we already comboed a little bit in turn 1. And I get rid of Zeus just because, you know, Draco Sack's already gone. What else did I get? I think SP Little Knight was in there. And yeah, I'm just going back here and looking at everything. Yeah, getting rid of SP, Win, Dragster. Yeah, also, like, in turns like this, it's, like, easy to get rid of Dragster. Well, let me put it better this way. Prosperity in this deck gets easier, like, as I drop my Ash Blossom on the floor there. Those nice, clean floors. But yeah, the Prosperity used to be tough in this deck, but if you really narrow it down, it gets pretty easy to actually use. Just because, like, if you are using Prosperity, Charge Warrior is pretty much off the table. If you've already used Tekatomborg, you know, things like SP and, what's it called? Dawn Drags are off the table, right? So those are all pretty easy things to take into account there. But I decided to, just for the sake of resources, only banish 3 there, because I don't want to, like, kind of screw myself over in terms of, like, not having enough utility in the extra deck, especially since I was kind of anticipating this game to, like, kind of linger on, and my opponent's going to take half damage there, and I decided to take the extra hand trap just to continue to play the control game, because I know that if I took the planet, I still would not have a play, and I didn't want that. Although, yeah, no, there's no world where taking planet's worth it. And I think during my opponent's standby phase, I Doom Eagle, shuffle the Impulse back into his deck, just so, again, if he has something like Preventer, he cannot slap that onto the field, just giving him less options all around. And, again, Doom Eagle chilling at 4,800, applying a lot of pressure on its own. And, I don't think this card is, like, supposed to be such a superstar card in this particular matchup anyways, but it's kind of coming in clutch here, and we draw Birth for turn, and that kind of opens things up here for us, because now we get the revival effect of Birth, and we also can just slap Fenrir on the field for free now too. So I just normal summon Fenrir, and We've got 4,800 plus 24. That's 60. Yeah, that's over 7,000 damage right there. And I just go battle phase, and my opponent knows that's game, so he just ends up admitting defeat. So played it very, very simple there. Nothing super crazy outside of maybe deciding what to do on that first line there, what to reveal. But I think, yeah, looking back, since I already had Yo-Yo in hand, it kind of made things a little bit easier. And we're going to see an unfortunate hand here. Not super unfortunate. I mean, double Prosby is not the greatest. I also probably did sat out a Duke and a Car Turbo going second, and I still ended up drawing one of each. So very, very unlucky here. And my opponent's going to start with the Diabellstar, pitching the Extinguish. And that's going to, of course, go ahead and set the original Sinful Spoils. And I can only imagine that if I had Ash for that, how screwed my opponent would be. Just because I feel like anytime they go Diabellstar and then immediately use the original Sinful Spoils, like, I feel like maybe that's a sign that their hand's not super great. Like, they needed to get to that right away. And on resolution, I do Droll, because obviously you have to do that, right? Especially they're adding Airlifter, which is basically just a Stratos for spells. So they're going to go ahead and link one. Yeah, this is also, like, again, probably, I don't want to say it's like the worst hand trap I could have drawn against Rescue Ace, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones. Having something like Valor or Imperm would have been nice too, just to try to check the Turbulence, which at this point I'm hoping he didn't like hard draw. But now that you see him commit the normal summon of Airlifter, you know, it's kind of obvious that he probably has it in hand already. And like, part of me feels like that's kind of unlucky for me, but I also know that at least most Rescue Ace lists probably play at least 2 Turbulence. But drawing a 2 of like that, I mean, come on. Like, it's just the amount of times I've seen it happen. It's just like, give me a break. Like, the SP Little Knight would have been fine just to deal with, but now the Turbulence is resolving here, and he's got the original Sinful Spoil set up in Grave. And I've got a very, very, very weak hand. Like, I need to draw something really strong for turn. Ideally, Harpy's Feather Duster would be pretty kick-ass right now, but yeah, I draw Skater Claw Kashtira, which just kind of goes to show you where the hand is at. And again, I did side out a Car Turbo and a Duke going second, and again, got super unlucky just drawing into those here. So I go ahead and Prosperity 4-6. Yeah, just pretty standard cards to get rid of here. Get rid of Doom Eagle. I'm just trying to keep the core engine of the deck. And yeah, I definitely always try to keep Dracosack in, but maybe like, yeah, I think I'm looking for the Zeus. I'm like, you know what? I probably should keep the Zeus in for a Dracosack line just in case it comes up, because there could very easily be a Zeus line. Pankratops, D-Shifter, Fenrir, Unicorn, Fenrir, and Piper. So you can kind of see some of the other side deck cards there, Pankratops and Dimensional Shifter. If I would have seen Dimension Shifter, we would have been in a very, very good spot. But, you know, can't always be that lucky. And I think going for probably for the Unicorn, I guess. Well, yeah, I guess grabbing the Fenrir is fine too. So we go ahead and special summon Fenrir, and I believe he's got the Contain, which I think he does just end up using here. Contain is just going to make it so it can't attack, and its effects are negated. So there goes my plan of trying to just run over the Little Knight, because outside of that, he just has the 3 spells set, which really don't do a whole lot. I mean, I guess outside of like getting access to Preventer, which is like a Book of Moon, which I always seem to forget about. I normal summon the Duke here, and there's a Preventer tributing off the Turbulence, and then he's going to immediately use the Rescue to go ahead and bring one back. Bring back the Turbulence here, so that's going to proc the Preventer to go ahead and book, and of course he ends up booking the Duke. So I really don't have a play here. Now at this point, this is where you could also argue maybe grabbing like Unicorn would have been better, because I would have had a Wind Body, so I could still like summon Car Turbo at this point. And I doubt, well, I guess you could say maybe he changed SP to that to banish itself in the Unicorn, leaving me with still nothing. And I think that would have been correct, because the Scareclaw would have had no way to summon itself. And yeah, that's rough. Yeah, there's not really much we could do there. It's just kind of one of those games where you gotta take the L. Droll and Lockbird wasn't enough with that poor hand. And in game 3, open up a very weird hand. It might be very reminiscent to game 1's hand, where we started with Fenrir and Scareclaw, which again, I only play one Scareclaw cache, and it's kind of not seeming that way with these games. I've drawn it every single game, actually. I drew it last game, and I drew it in game 1. So, and this is like, it's not a bad way to start the combo, because like, again, getting into Rubber Band Shooter without using your normal summon really opens up the ceiling of the deck, and it keeps you from not locking yourself into synchros. Just one of the core things about the Speedroid deck. It's always been able to do more, obviously, when you're not locking yourself into one summoning mechanic. So, and the hand is pretty fragile. So I'm like, if my opponent has any sort of hand trap here, like if they have Nib, we're kind of screwed. But, you know, they're on Fenrirs and stuff, so I don't think they're playing Nibiru, at least in my mind. At least thinking about it right now, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, that would kind of hurt them more. And they end up going ahead and imperming the Rubber Band Shooter here. And I thought about maybe linking to SP Little Knight, but I was like, you know what? Anti-spell with Judgment and 2 guaranteed ways to play if I can survive next turn, in that of Dracosack and of the Rubber Band Shooter, right? I'm putting a lot of pressure on my opponent to be like, hey, you need to clear both of these things under Anti-spell and a Judgment. Otherwise, I'm going to have a pretty solid way to play next turn. They do chain the Wanted in the draw phase there to grab the Diabell Star. And that can at least out one of my, you know, ways to play. And that's also, again, why I decided to link off the tokens and not the Dracosack and the token, because, again, I wanted 2 ways to play, because I knew my hand was very fragile, lacked extenders, so I didn't want to get rid of the Dracosack, because that's a pretty valuable tool to keep on board. And it ended up kind of working out. And they summoned Pankratops, which is like, okay, that I have to immediately get rid of 100%. That will completely ruin my day if I let that stick around, because then he can get rid of both Dracosack and Rubber Band Shooter and clear the anti-spell, and that leaves me top decking, which is a no-go at this current point. Because, yeah, and since he set the Wanted, we can also assume that he has original Sinful Spoils already in hand. And if he can clear the anti-spell, that gives him way to Engine. But little does he know I have a second anti-spell, but, you know, banking on one anti-spell is not going to be the best move. So they go Battle Phase, attack over Rubber Band Shooter, and they're going to go ahead and set 1. And they're going to go ahead and pass turn. And I draw Planet for turn, which is pretty solid. And I get a little ahead of myself. I'm like, oh, activate Planet. I can't even activate Planet because I'm under my own anti-spells. Like, I'll just set an unknown card, because why not? And then we resolve the Dracosack here. And that goes through. And now I'm deciding on what I want to do here. I know the set card that was set off Diabell Star is you know, closest to his deck there, so that one I know. The other one is unknown technically, so I use Dracosack's effect, tribute itself off to pop the other set, and it's the original Sinful Spoil, so that's good. That clears potential way to Engine, and that of Hydrant for next turn. And at this point I'm feeling like, you know, maybe I'm in the clear here, so I go ahead and link it to our Rubber Band Shooter, activate the effect, banish to 7, and yeah, no responses right now. I'm like, we're probably free to play here. We've got the good old Terror Top and Yo-Yo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They roll. And we get the Yo-Yo to hand, which is pretty solid for us. And we haven't used our normal summon yet. So we just regular normal summon, no effective Rubber Band Shooter here. And we're just going to go ahead and use the Terror Top to search out Tekatomborg. And Tekatomborg is going to do its thing here, tagging into the Fuki Madoshi Piper to excavate for 3. And hopefully we can find a Car Turbo or maybe some more non-engine, because if we can just sit on, you know, any level 7 synchro, that'd be kind of nice. But we find a Judgment, So I was like, you know what? Judgment's pretty cool. We'll sit on a Judgment. And yeah, I have banished Clearwing Synchro Dragon and Clearwing Fast Dragon, which in hindsight, I don't know really why I wanted to keep the what is it called? The Wind Pegasus so much. Because keeping Wind Pegasus there is like, this is good if I draw into Card Turbo because I can step up into Baron with it and put out an interruption in Graveyard. I mean, I guess it clears the set wanted and leaves him with less cards. And then I can go into Doom Eagle here. And I shuffle back the Pank into his deck, which is, you know, kind of a risky thing. But now it's going to put Doom Eagle up to 4,300. I could have summoned Card Turbo there and gave up the extra Judgment. But, like, I feel like resolving Piper in this scenario is just too good to, like, pass up. Just because, again, finding side deck cards like Judgment are going to be very, very crucial. And, I think, if I had to choose one Synchro to keep instead of Wind Pegasus, maybe it would have been, like, regular Clearwing, because that checks Turbulence, honestly. So maybe that would have been way better in this particular matchup. I think I just overlooked that. And my opponent's going to go ahead and use Original Sinful Spoil here to put back. And yeah, I probably maybe could have chained to that. I don't know the wording on Original Sinful Spoil offhand. Whether or not, you know, they need to put the monster back for it to resolve. And yeah, I think I just have a question about the normal spell, and it can put back the quick play to go ahead and draw one. So they go ahead and do that. And again, now I know that they have Hydrant in hand, that they got to search. Which, I mean, like, in hindsight, I didn't have to pop the set if I knew it was going to be Original Sinful Spoils, because that sets them up with the search. Otherwise, if it's just, well, if I don't get rid of it, they just flip it up next turn. So I guess that's not really, like, they're going to be able to get to Fire Hydrant regardless. And then here I go ahead and Doom Eagle, shuffle that back, keep him off of the potential Preventer play. And yeah, I think here they're realizing that they put back the wrong card. Yeah, so we just go ahead and quickly fix that. It's no big deal. And Doom Eagle still chilling at 4,800. I'm at 1,250 life points. Judgment has definitely more than put in work this game so far. And the thing is, like, if I had Clearwing Synchro Dragon, I think it'd be a lot better. I mean, he does go ahead and ends up crashing here actually into the Doom Eagle, and takes 2,300 points of damage, just so they can get Fenrir on field. And again, Clearwing Synchro Dragon absolutely just checks the hell out of Fast Dragons, or out of Fenrir rather. So that was a big mistake on my part. Again, I think if I have Clearwing with Doom Eagle set up, I think I'm more than in the clear. But right now I'm kind of just barely skirting by with what I've got to work with. So they, of course, add another copy of Fenrir. And I draw Judgment for turn. I'm like, oh my goodness, could I please just not draw Judgment like this? Could I draw a Card Turbo or anything? I'd rather just normal, like, Duke, Card Turbo, Tekatomborg. Like, I guess Duke and Card Turbo would have been the best. Or any level 3 hand trap would have been great. Just getting me into Baron right now probably just wins me the game outright. It more than does. Yeah, because just Baron pop and then attack for game. That's pretty much all we need to do. So I have to go ahead and... it feels so bad to do this. I have to crash Fenrir into Fenrir. Or, well, crash Doom Eagle into Fenrir. And then when Pegasus attacks in for 2,300, and then, you know, I'm just kind of hoping that it's going to be enough. He's got Fenrir in hand, that I know, and 2 other cards that are unknown. And they special summon Fenrir, and this, I'm pretty sure I have to Judgment the Fenrir, because otherwise he just goes battle phase, attacks, banishes the Pegasus face down, and attacks in for game. And luckily for me, he has no other plays there. And he has Turbulence and Snatch Deal in hand, so Doom Eagle putting in a ton of work there, shuffling back and controlling the graveyard, keeping something like Turbulence out of play. And Judgment, definitely MVP there for the match. As we move on to top 4. And last but not least, a big shout out goes to our current Divine level channel members who are Pony Start, Cadillac, Screen, Misfit, HGH Cyber, and Robin's Assistant. Thank you guys so much as always for your extremely kind and very, very generous support of the channel.